Welcome to the Homestead Podcast. You are joining co-hosts Carol and Jamie of twogalshomesteading.com. If you found yourself here, that means you are ready to take responsibility for what you eat, your family's health, and your family's well-being while living a simpler life. You can do this and have fun, saving money along the way. Let them help you unleash the homesteader within. By doing more with less, you will gain what is needed to create confidence, impact, and change in your life and the lives around you. Let's start homesteading. Let's start now.
We'd like to give a special thank you to picosupply.com for sponsoring our podcast. Hello, Jamie.
Hey, Carol.
So how has your week been? Well, I haven't seen you. 2 weeks you haven't been here because I had Kelsey here last week.
Yes.
And so you were busy in your kitchen there.
Oh, and the week before we did like a planning.
Yes. So it's been a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was busy. I mean, I have to put a post on Facebook about my week adventure of cleaning out the refrigerator freezer where you throw all the chicken carcasses, veggie scraps, and roast bones. You couldn't get anything else in there. And so that all turned into, it was 53 pints of chicken broth, 23 pints of beef broth. And then I had bought cranberries before Christmas that I thought I got to do something or they'll go bad. Mm-hmm. And so I made 11 quarts of cranberry juice. And I've never done that, so that's an experiment.
So now the cranberry juice has to sit.
Yes, it has to sit 4 to 6 weeks. We'll crack one open and see what they taste like.
Okay. And you added sugar?
Yes, I put a quarter. It was a cup and a half of cranberries and a quart. And then you put a quarter cup of sugar in it, and then you fill it with water, and then you hot water bathed it. I want to say 25 minutes. I'm not sure about time.
About right for juice.
And I figured if it wasn't sweet enough when we drained it, then we would add a little bit more sweetener.
So do you guys drink your cranberry juice straight, or do you mix orange juice in or something?
Normally we mix it in with our kombucha.
Oh, okay.
When we drink our kombucha, we will put a shot or two of some type of juice. And my husband likes like a black cranberry or a tart cherry. And so I thought, well, cranberry. I mean, if it's tart, I mean, it's going great.
Cranberries have a lot of, antioxidants and good stuff for you anyway. I mean, a wonderful thing to help you if you have problems with, urinary tract infections and stuff like that. So
it's not an issue in my life.
Yeah, that's not a problem for me either. But I mean, that is something my nursing tells me, so that's a really good.
Because this is another TikTok made me do it thing. I saw it on TikTok and I thought, yeah,
I saw Barefoot and something. Somebody sent me a link to hers anyway. Barefoot and something. I don't remember what.
Yeah, I don't remember this gal's. I should have wrote it down, but I forgot to. But then she said she was going to make a video when you go to drink it, you strain it, and she goes and you do something. And we'll use the cranberries for something else. But
has she gotten through the 4 to 6 weeks yet?
Maybe not.
Maybe she hasn't gotten.
Well, she did hers around Thanksgiving, I think.
Oh, well, then she should.
Well, she should be coming up on it, but then she's a busy homesteading mom.
Yep, might be recorded, just not put anywhere yet.
Yep, so, I can understand that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what she does with the cranberries so that she could actually use those.
Yeah, she does something with them, she says, and so it's like, we'll see.
Well, that should be interesting.
I should investigate that this week. Put it on the list.
Yeah, put that in your planner there.
Yeah.
And to check and see if she's posted anything more.
So that's about all the uniqueness in my kitchen. Otherwise, it's just the standard.
So you got a big hole in your freezer then, or?
Yes. I took a picture of the empty freezer. But I'm already starting to fill it up because it's like the next day I had a roast and it's like, oh, there goes that. Cut an onion, you put the peels in there.
Yep. Restocking the
and actually there was a whole chicken on the bottom of all that.
Oh, that's right. You told me you found a chicken.
I'm like, there's a chicken in
so
here.
You made soup, right? Didn't you?
Oh yeah, I did. Oh, that's right. I took some of that broth and made chicken noodle soup because I had deboned chicken in the freezer, another freezer that I wanted to use up. And so I made chicken noodle soup with that. And and then it's like, okay, what's in the refrigerator? So I had like leftover rice in the refrigerator. That goes in there. That's the kind of cook I am. Because like today I made stir fry for lunch, and those veggies that we had veggies and dip a week ago. It's like those need to be used. So we had stir fry today.
Hey, that's the way to do it. That way you don't have waste.
Yeah,
I mean, we throw enough food out already.
Yeah, and they were already cut up mostly. I had to cut some of them smaller, so that made lunch semi easier. I just had to take a steak out of the freezer and let it thaw for a little bit and slice it.
Nice.
Then I had my big flat top grill to
Oh,
clean.
yes. Yes.
Because my husband made me a flat top grill for my gas stove 2 Christmases
I was
ago.
gonna say, I bet it's 2 Christmases already.
And I love it because when you're doing a stir fry, it's like you do the meat on one side, I do the veggies on the other side, and then I just meet them in the middle and throw sauce on them, and I'm done. And it's easy to clean. You just I just use a bench scraper to throw some water on it, and then you scrape it and clean
So
it.
it's almost like what they use in a commercial kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
Type thing.
Yep, it is.
I've seen pictures. I haven't actually seen it.
Because I'm trying to think, what is it? What's the one outside? What's the brand name? A thing grill that everybody uses out.
But
I don't
yeah,
remember.
I know I have a milk customer who bought a hog from us, and she had sent me a picture of she had used the lard from the pig on her, well, it would have a flat top like that, and
Yep.
it was a big grill on her deck, and she had a
Yep.
bazillion burgers on there and hot dogs and everything,
Yep.
and she says, I am going to save so much money and not having to buy olive oil and avocado oil by using the
Lard.
fat off of the pig that she converted
'Cause
into
that's
lard.
what
Yep.
I used was lard.
Yep.
I use more lard than anything anymore.
That's awesome. Going back to our roots.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like, why spend extra money? Because olive oil and avocado oil is expensive.
Oh, and it's getting so expensive in the store.
I know.
Anything.
Anything.
Anything is. I mean, for instance, now we'll move over to my kitchen for a moment, and I've been doing I made a wheel of cheddar cheese. Now, I have been making cheddar cheese, but I've just been making it into curds. But this time I decided I got my press cleaned up and everything, and so we decided to press this particular wheel. So I made a 2-pound wheel of cheddar cheese, and I took the whey off that cheese. And Kelsey, of course, here comes Kelsey again. she had sent me, hey, if you have whey, try making this caramel out of leftover whey. And so that's what I did. I actually made 2 batches, and the first batch was a little runny, and you tasted that one.
Yeah, it tasted good.
Yeah, it tasted good. It was just not caramel-like texture or consistency
Yeah.
is a better word for that. I did it again and let it reduce down a little bit more, and it is absolutely delicious. I mean, it is really good, and I'm wondering if I do it again, I might try to reduce it down just a little bit more and see if I can get it a little bit thicker.
I don't think that would. Because the second batch to use it I use it in my coffee, and so it's really good the consistency it is in the coffee.
Yeah, I was trying to look for a caramel that you could maybe put on ice cream.
Oh,
You know,
yeah,
so
to
I'd like
reduce
it to be a little bit thicker. That was my only thing, because it does reduce down by half, and then you reduce it down by half again. And I wonder if I tried reducing it down some more, get it to a little bit thicker than that. I'm not sure. If I continue to make cheddar cheese, I'm going to have plenty of whey,
Yeah.
so I've got plenty of practice type thing.
Because otherwise it would be just something you would feed it to the pigs.
Or it would go to my chickens. My chickens
Oh,
get
okay.
yeah, our chickens get whey from our stuff. Yeah, I don't know. It's really, really good, and it makes a decent amount. But I don't want to make too much, and then I have all this.
You're gonna have all this caramel unless you could freeze it.
Yeah, I don't know. It does separate the butter, and it does separate out on top, and I don't know.
Yeah,
what,
it would separate in the freezer, I bet.
Yeah, I don't know what that would do in
I
the
wonder
freezer.
what you could do to get the butter to stay in it.
Yeah, I don't know. I talked to Kelsey, and Kelsey's like, nope, the recipe does the same thing for me too. Not that it's hard to stir it back in. So I thought that was kind of a neat way to use a byproduct and use it up, and it's something. I mean, I love caramel, so
Yeah.
that's not an issue for me at all
And
to
it
use
doesn't
it
have
up.
any funky.
Yeah, there's no
stuff.
additives. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just whey and sugar and butter, and I think there was a little salt in there and vanilla. It's a
Yeah, it'd be
real
interesting
pure
to see it
product, so to speak.
Cook down more.
So
You're
I
just
might
gonna
try
have to eat
that.
more caramel.
I'm glad I have your house to send stuff to.
Well, my guy is now. See, Bob's not a big sweet person. He doesn't eat a lot of sugar anymore. I don't even. Maybe I don't put a label on it. I'm sure if I put a label on it, Ben would probably sample it. but-
And the other thing that's happening in my kitchen is I have started making some ghee again. I know I had talked to you, and you were like, well, I've never used ghee because
It's expensive.
it's very expensive. And, I bet 2 weeks ago, I looked on the Walmart app
Yeah.
to see what the pricing of ghee was. And I don't remember what the pricing was, but we were looking this morning, and oh my gosh, I can't believe the
over
price.
$10?
It has jumped. It is like $18
Oh my goodness.
for 10 ounces or 12 ounces or something like that, or
So that's
whatever.
not even a pound.
Yeah, it's not even a pound, and it's like holy buckets. But with the price of butter going up, that doesn't surprise me that ghee is going up. And Rich actually did some research, and he found some stuff that they're selling it for over $100.
Oh my goodness!
And it's not even a pound. I was thinking it was 12 ounces or something
how
like
could
that.
you? I mean, that's probably what I spend a weekend if I go to the store.
Yeah, I don't know why you'd spend that, but. I mean, we're on butter overload here right now. We have a lot
I see the stack over there.
We have a lot of butter right now. And so I thought, well, instead of putting more and more into my freezers, maybe I should put some stuff up that's
on the
shelf stable.
yeah.
And ghee happens to be one of those things that I can actually do that with. That's what I started doing. And I don't know, I'm only doing a pound at a time. And I think if I'm going to get get out one of my bigger pots and see if I can maybe do a couple pounds at a time. I've tried 4 at a time, and it's too much. It's too much for how I do it. You can't get a clean product.
Oh, to scrape the foam and everything off.
To get all the foam off and all that stuff. And so I just decided I would probably try maybe a pound and a half and see what my limit is. I know 4 is too much, and 4 is about is a batch of butter for us. 4 pounds is about a batch of butter. So last night I did. I don't know. I have to look back there, but I think I did 4 pounds of butter. Made it into the ghee. I have your ghee right here. That is for you to try, and so you can see how that works for you. But
because you just put a cover on it. You don't have to.
You don't have to put it in the refrigerator. Mine sits in a jar next to the
you don't have to
stove.
hot water bath it, seal it, or anything.
Nope. You had a plastic lid over here.
Yeah.
And so I did let that cool, but I was like, I'll just put it through my mesh strainer, and I melted my strainer. Oh, needless to say, don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, metal strainer if you're going to do it that
metal
way.
strainer, or actually what I just got rid of the strainer completely because I had a metal one and I was like, this is just, and I just simply put cheesecloth over the top of the jar and just went straight through that way. I'm like, why do I need to dirty the strainer plus have cheesecloth? It didn't make any sense to me, so I just did straight, and it looks beautiful.
I know you use a lot of cheesecloth. Do you wash your cheesecloth or do you throw it away?
It depends. Now, the stuff I used for the ghee, I will toss.
Okay, cleaning it out would be...
just cleaning that is just too much. It's just too much fat. For me to be comfortable with, and throwing it through my washing machine, I just can't do that. And so, but for cheese making, I do reuse mine. I rinse it out. I put it in a bowl, and I put some soap in with it, and I just hand wash. I don't put it in the washing machine.
Okay.
I just hand wash it, and then I let it dry, and eventually I'll toss it.
Yeah, when it gets gross
but
looking.
if you do it right away after you've taken the cheese out of it, whether it be cream cheese or cheddar cheese or whatever, it's not really that dirty or whatever. And here's my cheesecloth that I use for cream cheese. Here's my cheesecloth that I've used for cheddar, and I keep them separate. So I don't.
So you're using them on the same product.
Yeah.
Because actually, when I placed an order from Culture for Health, I ordered cheesecloth because their cheesecloth, granted it was a sale, was cheaper than buying it at Walmart.
See, and their cheesecloth is going to be nicer.
Yes.
The stuff at Walmart sometimes is more of a crafty. Yeah, it's more of a crafty type stuff, and sometimes at least fuzz in your product. Because that's what I used to do. I used to buy the cheesecloth that I used for making cheese and stuff when I did it a long time ago. And I would just buy it at Fabric Warehouse. And that was the cheapest place to get it. And it was easy to get. Sometimes would leave strings on my cheese and stuff. So you had to be kind of careful with it. So you're better off going to somewhere where they sell it, where they actually make cheese, or they, their specialties in butter and cheese making and that type of thing, those type of products. So that's a smart move on your part.
Do they still have free shipping, or is that done when done?
I don't know. It comes through off
and then by the time this
me.
Hits the air, it'll be done.
Yeah, it'll be done.
Yeah.
But Cultures for Health, they run sales all the time.
Yes, always.
All the time.
Yeah, I think almost weekly.
Yep. You shouldn't probably ever pay
full price
or shipping there, because they always have a special going on for something.
Yeah.
It might only be on sourdough or whatever, but
cheese.
If you wait, just be patient, and what you're looking for will eventually have a discount code, or at least ship for free or something. For those, if you don't know what ghee is, it's clarified butter. I learned about it when we actually milked for Organic Valley at one of our producer meetings. And they were talking about, at that time, they had just built a new plant to do ghee, and otherwise they were doing it all by hand. I don't remember everything, but I do remember they said they had one person just sitting there that was actually putting the lids on the jars, screwing them shut and packaging them. And the new plant it was all automated whatever.
Of course.
But the one thing they said was, this is how we get rid of our butter that is about to expire
Expired.
that we can no longer sell. So it extends, because it's shelf stable, it extends the life of their
Yeah.
butter, and they can put it on a shelf somewhere and it can sit there in the grocery store.
It amazes me that this is shelf stable.
Yeah, and it is. When we milked for Organic Valley, we were able to get product at wholesale.
Yeah.
And I have a box of Organic Valley ghee
Ghee.
in my basement. And because I used to order a case of it, and that was 12 jars. I still have a box down there. It's open, and there's a few out of there. And we have not milked for Organic Valley since October of 2019.
Oh, okay.
So it's at least that old. I'm sure if I looked at the bottom of the jar, it says it's expired, but it is just fine.
yeah.
You know, I don't go by those expiration dates.
I don't
I
either.
really don't.
Yeah, as
So-
long as it smells good and looks okay.
Yeah, it looks okay. Yep. It's
Same thing with my canning things I've canned. As long as it looks good and it doesn't smell funky and it's sealed, I'll use it.
Same here. I'm not really nitpicky about that type of thing. So that's how I learned about ghee. And so then after they were talking about that, then I had done some research, and that's when ghee came into our household, is after that meeting and how I got on the ghee. And then I had somebody else who was like, oh, I just make ghee. And I'm like, it's not hard. It's a little putsy, but it's really not hard to do. And, you know, if you have butter that you think is expiring or maybe has gotten older
Yeah.
than you want to in your refrigerator, it works.
Well, and like, in the summertime, your cows slow down and you don't get as much milk. So then you still have, it's ghee, but it's still a butter.
Yep, it's still butter, and you know it spreads
put it
really
on
nice.
toast.
Ghee. The thing about ghee is that the ghee reacts to whatever the temperature it is where you're storing it.
Okay.
So if it's sitting next to the stove and you turn the burner on, it's probably going to liquefy, and then it'll just go hard again
Yep.
after that heat is gone.
Like coconut oil.
Exactly. It's exactly like that. And it doesn't affect it that it's warmed up and cooled down or whatever. It doesn't seem to change it at all. But I do, that's the thing. So if you have a cold kitchen, your ghee is going to be hard. If you have a hot kitchen, your ghee might be liquid all day long.
Yeah.
It all just kind of depends on the heat of wherever it's sitting
Yep.
type thing. So mine always sits in the basement if it's in storage. But we use the ghee and the lard from our pigs. So I have both options.
You have
and
plenty of fats. In
yes,
your
I
house.
have plenty of fats in my house. But so that's my venture right now. I'm only doing it with the unsalted butter because that's what I read online. Unsalted was better to use. But I have a friend who's like, I just use whatever butter I have. If I need ghee, it doesn't matter if it's salted or unsalted. And she says, I can't taste the difference. So I don't know if the salt cooks out with the solids from the,
maybe it comes out in the foam or
maybe it
something?
comes out in the foam or comes, or whatever. I don't know if it disappears. I have no idea. I don't know what happens to
One
it.
of those mysteries. of
Yeah.
God.
So if somebody knows what happens to the salt if you make ghee, let us know.
Let us know. Go to Facebook
yeah,
and
please
comment.
leave a comment or whatever and tell
we'd
us.
see it
'cause
more, or we'd see it quicker on our Facebook page, probably.
Probably. Yep. And I do have a post on there about ghee. I just did that
Yep.
today. At the time of this recording anyway, find that little post that I really doesn't say a whole lot about ghee, but if you know something about the salted part, that would be interesting because that I have not tried yet. I have not tried salted butter yet to make ghee out of. So yours is unsalted, if that matters to you. So now you mentioned to me when we had our little planning, our podcast next episodes and all this stuff, you come up with this. You thought we maybe should try doing an herb of the week.
Yes.
And I thought that was a fantastic idea.
Because for Christmas, I got the last book of Herbal Remedies, The Healing Powers of Plant Medicine by Nicole, PhD, and Claude Davis. And I'm a old homeschooling mom. Old. No.
You're not that old.
Through that process, I learned right along with my kids. And things I totally ignored when I was in high school, I relearned as I taught my kids. So you learn by teaching. So I thought, okay, what better way for me to learn? This is something I want to learn. I'm poking my toes in it and learning herbs and how to make tinctures. And your husband, Rich, said something about, well, when you finish reading that book, and I'm like going, I'll never finish reading that book because it's not a book. You don't read it like a novel.
It's like an encyclopedia.
Yes. And so you don't read some people do. You don't sit down and read an encyclopedia like a novel most times.
Right.
I'm sure are those people that do. And so it's like, oh, okay, I pick it up and I open it and it's like, oh, I have that plant. What do I do with it? How do I use it? It's like black-eyed Susans can be used as medicine.
Oh, really? I have those growing all over out here.
Yeah. So it's like that will be one of them. But I thought I'd start with something that we all use.
Mhm.
If you cook it in your kitchen, the odds are you're using garlic. And so here, we're going to try to do this. Keep me in mic range so that as I'm reading, that's
Okay.
the trick. So garlic has a strong medical value, and it tastes great at the same time. Most people would benefit greatly by eating more garlic, no matter how good or bad your health. This gal uses garlics for everything, and I do too. I've started eating after I
Yeah,
got
and
this book.
You eat it raw and
Yeah.
cooked.
Yeah. See, most of the garlic that this gal uses, it is found it's in almost every garden, any store. So it's not hard for anybody to get
And garlic can grow just about anywhere, right? I mean, I've been seeing a whole bunch of stuff coming up in my Facebook feed about growing garlic over winter in your house. Oh my gosh. And I'm not even researching the garlic part, you know. And I'm like, oh, here's another one, and here's another one. And they're all talking about growing it in your house over winter. Never buy garlic again. This is how you do it. Now, I didn't click on any of those because I've had a really busy week, but
I would see that you would need a lot of space, because I personally use 2 to 3 bulbs a week. I planted about 40 bulbs. That's not enough for a year for me. So I do have to buy. I'm done. I've used all my garlic that I grew.
Really? And
between bone broth and just general cooking.
And you planted some of those that right?
No, I ended up buying.
You bought.
bulbs.
Okay, that's right. That's right.
I
You
couldn't
bought bulbs.
find any at the local nursery, and I ended up going to Walmart and buying some of their organic bulbs and planting them. Because then even seed companies, I went to order them online, and they didn't have any. They weren't selling them.
Now see, and you talked about, running out of seeds, shortages, and all this stuff that they've talked about. Okay, now we got away from our herb of the week. So anyway.
Yep. So, most people, to identify it, it looks like an onion as it's growing. They have lovely pictures in this book, so to help you identify them. So those things that you don't, because I think there's a section in here which talks about foraging in your backyard. And so it's like, okay. Yeah. Of course, garlic is edible, so everybody knows about using garlic as a seasoning in their food. But for medicinal uses, you can use it internally, of course. She recommends that people simply eat more garlic in their foods. For best results, garlic should be chopped fine and allowed to rest for 10 minutes or so before cooking. Eating it raw is even better. So I did not know about letting it rest.
No, I didn't know that. I know if you're cooking with it, you shouldn't just throw it in a pan, that you should have something else in the pan. Just don't put ghee in the pan and then throw your garlic in.
Because you'll burn your garlic.
Yeah, you'll burn your garlic. You need to do your onions first or whatever and type thing. But I didn't know about letting it rest.
Yes, and stuff.
Oh, that's interesting.
And stuff. She goes on, so chopping and allowing time for the sulfurs compound to develop in the garlic will make it more potent. Some people complain of the strong garlic smell in the sweat when consuming garlic. This is a natural response and indicates that the body is using the beneficial compounds. To alleviate this complaint, eat fresh parsley with the garlic. Did not know that. That's what I need, because I had garlic at lunch and I can taste it.
I was going to say, because I can smell garlic on you. I know you had garlic. So the parsley, that's interesting. So do you have fresh parsley in your house? Do you have a plant that you just could harvest off of?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I grow it outside and I dry it. So
I mean, parsley's cheap in the store too, but you have to buy it. Got to remember to buy it.
Remember to buy it.
Yeah.
But it's fairly easy to keep in the refrigerator too.
Yes, it is.
You just put it, a tip here, just put it in a jar like a vase, clip the ends off like you would fresh flowers, and stick them in some water and change your water out every day or so.
So do you cover yours when it's in the refrigerator?
Yes.
I put a plastic bag over it. Put a plastic
bag over it. Back to the garlic. Taking garlic as a medicine. In general, use garlic in any way that best suits you. People who don't like the strong flavor can put it into capsules, but I like the using it fresh and chopped fine or crushed to release the beneficial sulfurous compounds. You can also take it in a tincture. So for those that don't know, a tincture is usually something made with an alcohol base or a vegetable glycerin. So the alcohol is usually like vodka or Everclear.
Okay.
If you want to go expensive, use Everclear. But vodka, usually they say the cheap vodka is good enough. For people who like garlic, try chewing one whole raw clove each meal or drinking garlic juice daily. Now, I will say chewing raw garlic is an experience. Okay. I mean, it is very spicy, and it's different than a jalapeno spicy hot, but it's hot.
Okay, so you mentioned something about sweating and stuff. Does that happen to you when you eat your garlic?
It opened my sinuses up because I just did it because I forgot. Because normally what I do, I'll take it, press it, and then put it on the edge of my plate or bowl, whatever I'm eating, and then I eat it with a little food because that takes that sting off you. And it's the sting on my tongue that's most like, oh,
Okay.
it's like, and so, but I forgot to put it on my plate at lunch with my stir fry, and I was cleaning the kitchen and went, I forgot to eat my garlic. And so I took just a couple pieces of broccoli out of the leftovers, and I chewed quickly and chewed garlic or chewed broccoli to get it down. But I'm like, I can, if you can smell me, I mean, I can taste garlic. So it's been an hour since I did that, and I can still taste the garlic in my mouth, even after I put a breath mint in my mouth. Because afterward, I thought, oh, Carol's going to smell
Well,
me.
as I say, I mean, if I add garlic to Chastity's diet at all, and then for those of you who don't know, she's tube fed, and so if I add that to her, so she's not going to get the flavor you are, but I can. I swear it's coming out of her pores.
Yep.
You know, and I know it's really super healthy for her and stuff, but there is a point where I have to stop
Cut
for
back.
a little bit because I can't hardly even work with her because she smells like a garlic clove.
Yeah. Usually my husband's like, you've had enough garlic for a while. It's like, okay. But we'll get to the reason that I'm using it. We'll talk about
right.
Okay. Treating viral, bacterial, and parasites infections. Garlic is a potent antibiotic, antifungal, and antiparasitic plant. Use garlic to treat infections of all kinds, including colds, flu, sore throats, bronchitis, stomach flu, and intestinal worms, thrush, yeast, and fungal infections. Use garlic preparations topically to treat thrush infections, and other types of yeast or fungal infections. Spread a paste of garlic on the affected area several times a day and eat garlic regularly to clear the infection internally.
So would you think a garlic paste would work on like ringworm?
I would be willing to try it.
I just had somebody contact me, what's this on my goat? And I was like, that looks like ringworm. And she's like, how can I treat that organically?
Could you put it like a poultice? You know, like a paste, make a paste and put it on there. And then I don't know how you'd keep it on an animal. Could you put like what's that stretchy tape that you...
Vet wrap.
Vet wrap. Well,
yeah,
they use
probably
it in
depends
sports.
on where it is.
Yeah.
Where it's located or whatever. But I wonder if you could
Because you could apply it, but it wouldn't stay. Like,
I
on the
don't know.
fur.
Yeah, I don't know how long it would stay on there, but that's interesting.
But if you're applying it a couple times a day, you would still get some benefits.
Yeah, you get some benefits. I don't know if a goat would eat garlic, but to help from the inside out, so to speak, or whatever.
Yeah.
But our animals out here and we run an organic dairy, a certified organic dairy. A lot of the tinctures and the boluses and stuff that I use on my cattle, garlic is in there.
Okay.
Garlic is in almost all of them. I mean, in fact, the treatment I use for pneumonia, it has
garlic.
It has garlic in it.
And then, then it goes on. I mean, this garlic is it's got a page and a half here. Digestive problems. Garlic improves our digestion and is useful to relieve excess gas, bloating, and other digestive upsets. Lowers blood sugars in diabetics. Garlic helps lower blood sugar in diabetics by improving the function of the pancreas and increases the secretion of insulin. This helps the body regulate blood sugar levels and alleviates the problem associated with high blood sugar. To be effective, garlic needs to be eaten at every meal in significant quantities. She doesn't say how much is a quantity.
Yeah.
Adding a couple cloves of pickled garlic to the meal is usually enough to get the full benefits.
Pickled garlic.
Yeah.
Now, do you do pickled garlic?
No.
Okay.
So is that where you put it in I've seen it where it's in like oils?
I don't know what pickled garlic is. Not saying that I haven't seen it in the store. I mean, that doesn't sound foreign to me, but I don't know if I've ever researched it.
Yeah.
So she said 2 cloves, or he said
she.
Okay, she.
Well, it's a she and it's a female doctor and a Claude. I never see a picture of him, but I always see her. So yeah, she says just 2 cloves a day.
2 cloves a day, not per meal.
Adding a couple of cloves of pickled garlic to the meal.
To the meal.
So each meal.
Each meal. So 6 cloves of
Garlic.
pickled garlic. Or at least she says pickled
That's
there.
more than I eat it. Bronchitis, whooping cough, congestion of all causes. Garlic has a strong decongestion effect and expectorant action. It is useful for maladies where phlegm or mucus is a problem. Garlic also reduces fever and kills off the underlying infections. It is also useful for bronchial asthma, where the breathing passages have swollen, making breathing difficult.
Oh, see, now asthma is a thing we deal with because Madison has asthma.
Did
And
her
that it is not something that she takes medication for in regular. She only uses an emergency inhaler. But that's also interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know,
I'm over here going, that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I know. That's where I've used. If I get a cold, that was always when I would eat garlic
Okay.
to help open the nose and be able to cough stuff out. Here's the reason I'm using it. It alleviates, well, not cholesterol. It alleviates blood cholesterol levels and blood pressure. I have high blood pressure, and so garlic effectively lowers blood cholesterol levels and blood pressure when consumed. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is to remember at least once a day to eat a cup of cloves. I have not checked my blood pressure to see if it's lowered it any more than it was, but that's why I'm doing it. I figure everything I can do is a help benefit.
Are you still taking your medication?
Some of it. I've cut back a little bit, and so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to wean myself off my pharmaceuticals. We'll see. We'll watch and see if that's, because part of it is being able, I need to renew my prescription if I'm going to keep them, but to go to a doctor, just for me to walk into the doctor's office, because we don't have health insurance, is at least a year ago was $250.
I bet it's more now. Yeah, for them to take your blood pressure and go, here you go, here's your script.
Yeah, for 10 minutes of being with the doctors, $250. I think my husband's in the wrong business.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like really?
Medical is so expensive.
Yeah,
it is.
So if I can help control that without pharmaceuticals, because when I went on blood pressure, you got high blood pressure. Here's some medication. Just take it. No talk about. Well, they talked about, is your stress levels high? I'm like, well, I'm self-employed and I'm homeschooling 4 children. Yes, my levels. Well, you need
Just
to
a little bit.
You need to work on your stress. I'm like, well, that's not changing anytime soon. And so they just automatically put me on blood pressure medication. No talk about what can we change, or what can you change in your lifestyle. And so now I'm trying to fix those problems. I'm trying to reverse it and go back and see, okay, is there anything naturally that I can do to alleviate this? So I call myself the experiment of one. Okay, this is what I'm hoping to work with on myself. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, and the good thing is that you don't mind taking garlic. That's not a thing.
Sometimes I feel bad for the people around me.
For me, growing up, my mom didn't use garlic in our house. If we used garlic, it was garlic salt. Garlic clove would be totally foreign, something foreign to find in
you say
the
that,
house I grew up in.
I don't remember having it in my house growing up.
So for me, I have to remember to use garlic. And we like garlic. You have to remember to use it.
Yep.
I mean, I have garlic cloves all over the place in this house, but it's like I don't always remember, you need to throw that in the chicken soup. You need to throw that it was in the beef stew last night, or whatever.
Well, I'd remember it in a recipe. If a recipe called for it, I'd have it and stuff. But now I have it in just a little dish on the counter. I have it right out in front of me all the time, because I'm a out of sight, out of mind person, unless something's reminding me to do it. And so I'm trying to keep it there in front of me so that I see it, that I'm always pushing it around, getting it out of the way.
Yeah, nuisance reminder, so to
speak.
It is.
Yeah. That's a lot of things.
But if you're trying to use it for a health reason, you need to have it there so that you
got to remember to do it.
So that
she said consistency.
Yeah, consistency.
Yeah,
which is, a lot of that is with your even homeopathy and essential oils and all that kind of stuff. I mean,
they're not a one and done type thing.
Yeah, it's not. We just take it for the 10 days like an antibiotic, and then we're done, and everything's fixed. And your body needs to build up a resistance and get this into that system so that it can fight, and that type of thing. And so it's kind of retraining yourself.
Kind of, I like that too, is because it's not like there's so many resistant bacteria to antibiotics nowadays. Because even it was like, okay, my son. He got 30-degree burns back in 2016, and he was in the burn center in the Twin Cities, and he got a resistant staph infection, and that was bad. He had to go on souped up antibiotics, and one of them was so strong it burnt. The new skin that he was growing fell off again.
We've definitely abused
And so
abused antibiotics in this, at least in this country.
And so, this is where I'm going back to. It's
But
like
food is medicine, and you got to rethink that. You might not be able to fix everything because there is a place for medicine.
Yes,
there
there
really
is.
is. If you can take care of blood pressure by simply eating garlic.
or if you can take care of ringworm
Yep.
without some strong antibiotic cream.
Yep. Antifungal.
So, but to go on, it says corns, warts, and acne. For corns, warts, and acne, rub a paste made from the fresh smashed garlic on the affected spot. Garlic actually softens and smooths the skin and kills the bacterial infection causing the problem.
Wow.
Like,
corns and
says-
warts.
Yeah. Or acne, I'm thinking. Teenager goes to school and he smells like garlic, which is worse.
Yeah, smell like garlic bread.
So you either have acne or you have garlic skin. It's like, okay.
Oh, that is...
It's very interesting.
Wow.
So she gives us a couple recipes for a garlic infusion. Chop or grind garlic cloves and allow them to rest for the 10 or 15 minutes. Before continuing, place the garlic into a pot and cover with water. Heat the water gently to a simmer and then turn off the heat. Allow the garlic and water to seep overnight. Use 2 to 4 milliliters of this infusion 3 times a day with meals. Keep the infusion in the refrigerator for up to 3 days or in the freezer for up to a month. And then she has a garlic tincture too. Okay, chop a cup of garlic cloves fine and allow to rest for 10 to 15 minutes. Place the garlic in a pint jar with a tight fitting lid. Cover the chopped garlic with apple cider vinegar, preferably with the mother, and allow the jar to seep for 4 to 6 weeks. Shake it several times a week. Take 1 tablespoon of garlic tincture with each meal. So there's our herb of the week.
There's the herb of the week. Boy, it sounds like a miracle herb almost. I mean, it really covers a lot, very broad, wide
range of issues,
ailments, and type of thing.
Yeah.
That's interesting, and it's something that
everybody can get.
It's easy to get. It's easy to get garlic. Maybe not if you're trying to grow it, but
it's growing enough for as much as you need.
Yeah, I didn't realize. I mean, I know it was a really powerful herb, but I didn't realize it was quite like that.
Yeah, so it's like that is very interesting.
Yes, that's
so that will be our new thing for all of us to learn together.
So if you have an herb that you'd like to hear about or learn about,
because I'm checking out other books I check out books from the library and then I buy them. That's the way I do it going. Because sometimes everybody's like, yeah, this is a book, and I'm going, I'm not getting as much out of this book as I've got better books.
Yep.
So
okay.
So anyway.
All right. So yeah, if you have a favorite herb or you want to learn more about an herb, we can research it and we can make it herb of the week. Let us know if you like this feature or not, if you want to learn about herbs.
City homesteaders and country homesteaders. I look at it, that's one way that we can help ourselves and our animals, if we have animals, to use the land as much as we can.
Yes. And if you can treat something more naturally, why not? So now we'll take a break here.
Family-owned PetecoSupply.com brings small-town customer service to their online farm store. PetecoSupply.com specializes in automatic waterers from top brands such as Miraco, Jug, Franklin, Trojan, and Ritchie, as well as other products for your operation. Find your farm supplies and automatic waterers at PetecoSupply.com. That's PETECO Supply.com. Petco Supply.
And we're back.
All right.
Okay, so Jamie's going to take over now, and we're going back to gardening again.
It's that time of the year.
Yep, we've talked about getting your seeds.
Planting your garden.
Yep, and planting your garden.
Getting your seeds.
Yep, getting your seeds.
So now you got your seeds. What are you going to do with them? You need to decide if you're going to start your seeds inside, if you're going to start your plants at the store, the nursery, or you're going to direct seed.
Direct seed. Yep.
Direct seed into the grounds. Because some things you can start ahead of times, and some things you can just start in the ground. And I do both. So first you need, we covered this in the last podcast, but we'll do it again. You need to find your last frost date in the spring. And for us, that's around May 4th. If you don't know what yours is, the Old Farmer Almanac website, you can go in there and plug your zip code in, and it will tell you your zone, your frost date. They'll give you your altitude. I did not know that until I was looking around. Oh. And so that's if you're going to be pressure canning in this fall, you need to know what your altitude is. So if you need to increase your pressure when you're pressure canning.
Oh, yes.
Or even
good point.
Sometimes hot water bathing too. You'll have to process a little longer because of your altitude.
Okay.
And so, or elevation.
Elevation. Yeah.
And stuff.
Yes,
So that's
the word
where,
you're looking for.
and then you figure out which seeds need to be started when. And the best place to get that information is the back of your seed packet.
I was going to say, even on the back of the seed thing, it tells you sometimes what zones and stuff, doesn't it? Sometimes sometimes it has a picture of the United States on there. We're talking the United States now. I don't know about other countries, what they do, but I do know the packages have.
Or if you're flipped to the opposite end of the earth, I
don't
know how
know.
to help you if you're in Africa or South America. Sorry.
Yeah.
But anyway, so
yes, that pack, they have information on there.
They'll
that
tell
you.
you. They'll tell you what zone you are, or usually it'll tell you to start 2 to 4 weeks before your last frost date, and so that's why you need your last frost date. And there are very low tech ways to do it, and that's the way I've done it up until a year or so ago. Is you just take a calendar, go to your bank. Here in the United States, you can almost go to every bank and get a free calendar this time of year, and our banks are actually throwing them at you.
Yeah, you need a calendar.
You need a calendar because they have so many. And so all you do is look at your seed packet. This is a little time consuming process. Is you look at the back of your package, you look at your tomatoes, and it says 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost date. So you find your frost date and you count back 4 to 6 weeks. And I always go the 6 weeks because then if I'm not on the ball, I got 2 weeks leeway. And then I write down there, start tomatoes, March, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so then, you make your list. So the first week of March, you need to do this. The second week of March, you need to do that. And so you do that with vegetables, or if you're like me, you got flowers thrown in there too. Because actually, this year I want to grow onions, but onions are 100-day long.
Oh,
They take 100 days to mature. And actually I'm going to start, because normally I would go to the nursery and buy pre-started, I wouldn't buy sets. I would buy pre-sprouted or pre-grown onions. And sometimes I would lose probably about 10, maybe 15% of those, because if I bought them with intentions of planting them and get, it's like, okay, I can plant these Saturday, but then Saturday's weather is not favorably. They have to sit and wait until it's warm enough and dry enough for me to plant them. And so they'll sit, and you're not supposed to set them in water, or you're not supposed to replant them in a pot. And so you will lose some. So with starting my own, I'm hoping to be able to just pull them out of the seed tray, and then break them up, because onions, you can pull them apart and rough up the roots, and they still grow.
Okay, because see, when I planted onions, I've always bought like the set of 50.
Yep.
That's not what you're talking about. You're talking
Plants.
Yeah, they're they're
A
dried.
bundle.
They're a bundle of those. Is that what you're talking about?
Or you mean like the little onions that didn't grow much last year? There's onion plants, and then there's onion sets. Onion plants looks like a green onion. It looks like a bunch of green onions.
Okay, that's what I've done, but they're dry.
Kind of, sort of.
Yeah, they're not.
They're not totally dry.
Yeah, but they're like dormant.
Yeah,
would be a better word to.
Yeah, but if you leave them sit around, you will lose them.
Yep, they will go. But that's how I have always done
Yep.
onions. I've never tried doing seeds. I've never tried any of that.
Growing up, we always did sets. And now onion sets, that they are onions that were grown and then pulled and allowed to dry.
Okay.
And so when you plant them, though you're growing a second year onion, and you run the risk of them blooming, and the plant will send energy into making that flower, and you won't get a bulb. But if you're looking to save onion seeds, that's the way to do it. But you can only have one, you can only have one variety. Otherwise, you will end up with hybrid.
That makes sense. Yep.
So if you have 2 different types of onions, you're going to end up
So
with
you don't want to have red onions and yellow onions.
No, you want to have just one.
Okay.
And unfortunately, living in town, what are my neighbors growing?
Yep.
Plays a big deal into
Yeah,
that.
that's a good point.
So I have a neighbor 2 houses down that they have a garden, and they would have onions there. I think I've never gone over to the garden and said, "Oh, what do you got going?"
Yeah.
I'm not that good of a neighbor with them. Otherwise, they're the only garden around me. So I could probably get away with.
Okay.
I might risk it.
Yep.
And I might try it this year. So that's,
A fun experiment anyway.
that's where, so you got the low tech, but then there's the high tech way that we talked about last time. We talked about my SeedTime app, which is, and I forgot to say, it's a web-based app. It's not where It's not an app that you can download from Google Play or Apple Store yet. They're hoping to in the future. But if you have a browser, the way I use it on my phone is I have my browser, my internet browser on my phone, and I'm logged into their website on my phone.
So you need to be connected to
An internet Yep.
data, something
Yeah.
you need to be.
to be able to use that.
Okay.
And we can put a link, I'm assuming, Rich,
Yes, I'm
down
sure
in
we
the
can.
show comments like we did last time. And so that's how I'm doing it now and it tells me, it's like I plugged in my frost date and everything, and it tells me this is when you need to start. This is the week that you need to plant this seed, and then it will tell me when I need to transplant that outside.
Okay, so here's a question. So you go in there and you're like, okay, I'm planting onions, or I need to start my onions, and it tells you need to start it on February 14th. I'll just pick a date. You put that in there and you're like, does it have a reminder so that something pops up on your phone that says, hey, it's February 14th. Did you know you're supposed to plant your seeds?
You need to,
you need to actually go in there and look.
But it has a to-do list. It has
Okay.
a to-do list that you can pull up and say, this week you need to plant your onions. Start your onions from seed. Start parsley is another one you got to start in February.
It doesn't hook up to your like your Google Calendar or
that
whatever.
would be really nice.
Yeah, I mean, I have stuff that comes through on mine, some
Yep.
of my bills and stuff. And if I get an email on it, Google picks that up and goes, hey, you know what? Your electric bill is due on the 2nd
Yeah.
or whatever it is. And wouldn't that be handy?
That would be handy. I will suggest that to them because they're always looking for suggestions.
Yeah, I mean, just a thought, that, if you don't open up the app and you're not thinking about, oh gosh, it's all, how time gets away from you.
Yep.
And you're like, oh crap, it's already, oh, I should have done that. And maybe if you,
and so it depends on it. Some people I know that they do both. They will have a paper.
Mhm.
I'm kind of that way. I probably won't do a paper one this year, but I will probably print out a to-do list and then I may manually put a reminder in my calendar that
right.
it's like check your, but that's comes back to schedule. I mean, what's your schedule or your planner? You put a reminder in your planner and your account, check your seed app. It's like,
yeah, there's ways to be reminder, but how handy would that be?
That would be, yeah.
If you get the information plugged in there, that it sends
and
you a
can
little
put it
reminder.
in you can put tomatoes and then you can varieties. So like if you have different varieties that you want to grow.
Because not all tomatoes
grow
use the same.
You would probably start
gestation here. Listen to me.
you're out in the barn there, girl. So they're all different maturity date, but you start them all pretty much the same time from seeds. Because that talks about getting them ready to go outside. And usually a maturity date is from the time you transplant them. For tomatoes anyway. So
see, I've always well, I shouldn't say I've always. I've actually tried growing seed and stuff like that. I've done it a couple of times, and my second year definitely went better than my first year.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, but for me it was just easier to buy the plants.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's okay too. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're looking to do seeds, Jamie's going to tell us here.
I'm going to say, if this is your first year gardening, this may not be where you want to start. Because, if this is your first year garden, I would go to your local nursery and ask them varieties and stuff they're there.
Learn.
They're there to answer your questions and stuff. And you may not get any, if you go to a big box store, you may not get as much help. From your local nursery, they're very knowledgeable and that's their business. They want to help you and they want you to have a good thing. But you're very limited at a nursery and a box store with varieties.
Yes.
So if you're wanting to branch out into different varieties of plants, that's when starting your own seed is awesome.
Yeah, because not always do they carry the heirlooms and the zebra striped tomatoes and
all the funny color. They taste great, but it's like, but you don't usually.
Yeah, there's not enough demand for them, so you're not going to find them there.
Their business is to make money, and they're not going to make money on those.
Right.
There's not as much demand for them, I can see.
Yep.
And so, but anyway, one consideration you need to start with is, do you have the space to do this? And what equipment do I need to start this?
Starting seed, that takes some space.
Space and time. It's like having a 2-year-old that you got to take care of. A toddler baby. So you need your seeds, of course. And so hopefully you have your seeds bought already, or they will be coming soon. And don't plant seeds that don't like to be transplanted, like a corn seed. You can't, corn will not grow from you can start it and stick it in the ground, but it's not going to be real happy. It's going to get shocked and it's going to be set back.
That's like a really good point that some just
Yep.
You need to direct sow. There are some things
There are
you
some
need
plants
to.
you just better off direct sowing, waiting until it's warm enough, and then just planting them in the dirt. And then you need a place to put. So you need a place to put your seed trays, be it a shelf, a windowsill that's got a wide ledge on it. And if it's a window, it needs to be a window that gets lots of sun. So I would suggest south, but then you want to make sure that it's not too cold by that window, if that's where you're going to put it. You know, windows, it can work. It's a little more struggle with the window because you can't control the light because there's going to be days there's no sun, you know. And if it's a draft, if you 100-year-old house and you haven't replaced the windows, they could be drafty, and that draft will stunt your plants too. So that's a consideration. So you want it warm too. So if you're going to put it by the window, is it warm? So that's the draft things. And is it going to get enough light? Or you could use shelving or heat mats to help germinate. I've said before that I have a hot water heat system in my 100-year-old house, and so I have wide radiators that I use as my heat mats until, depending March. If it's getting warm enough outside and my furnace isn't running, then I don't have my heat mats. So then I have to bring out my heat mats and use those to germinate my seeds. It's because most seeds want it to be warm to germinate. So that's a consideration. And so then once you do have, you're going to need lighting. So if you're using a south window, fine, great, that works too. But then, you need a source of light. I use just shop lights, 4-foot shop lights that my husband now has put LED lights in. And and that works great, except for the shelving unit. I'm using a cheap $15 shelving unit when we bought it probably 15 years ago. And the 4-foot shop lights are bigger than the shelf. And so it was really hard to raise and lower them. So I'm going to buy some different ones this year that you don't have to, because they're LEDs, you don't have to move them up and down, they say.
I was going to say, because that's what we did. We used shop lights, and Rich just built like a 4-shelf out of scrap lumber. We did that, and we had chains hanging so that we could move that up and down, because after the first year I learned that you need to put your light very cllose, otherwise you're going to get leggy
plants.
And you'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about that later in a bit. So you don't have to, because if you go on Amazon, you've got the gamut of grow lights. If you type in, and it doesn't have to be nowadays, because of LEDs, it doesn't have to be grow lights. I mean, it's got to be a broad spectrum, full color light. And I did watch a video.
I would think you'd want. Would you want a light that was daylight, the equivalent of daylight?
It's like warm. But, it's warm.
Yeah.
Warm and it was. He talked about the spectrum of cool lights and stuff. Okay. He wanted a more blue light, but more blue than the other. You want a wide spectrum, and so that's so you need to look into that. So research. This is what I have come up with for this. When we said let's cover this, and it's like, okay, I do this. How do I do this? So when you take your practices and have to put it down on paper to translate to somebody else, it's like, so that's one thing. You have to look at your lighting. You have to have some lighting. So we're just going to say have some lighting, do some research.
Yep, do some research on what's going to work best. And having the LED, because I kept my lights on all the time, I think.
12 to 16 hours is what they say.
Okay.
I have mine on for 12 hours, and I have them on a timer because I have them come on at like 6 o'clock in the morning and then going off at 6, 7 o'clock at night. And that's one thing I don't have to run in the basement to do that, because I'm not out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning, guys. I have no cows.
But then you got to try to remember to.
Yeah, that would
turn it. So
you have to remember after you go to the bathroom to go downstairs and turn those lights on.
Yeah.
See, I'm reading my notes here. So it's like the trays. You need the trays to put your seeds in. So those, you can buy seed trays like you'd find in at a box store or nursery, or you can recycle something. My first years I used plastic meat trays that I had rinsed out, and I just put sprinkled seeds on them, grew them, and then later on I did separate them and then put them in bigger pots. And then there's I have a wooden dowel thing that I bought from some seed company that I can make paper pots out of newspaper strips. Mm-hmm. And so there's things like that.
Now, that one where that's a type of thing where you can just drop that whole thing in. You don't even have to disturb your plant at all.
And I cut a bunch of strips, and then I sit and do this in front of the TV, and I just throw them in a paper bag. Mm-hmm. And when the paper bag, usually a full paper bag is enough for what I need for the year. Things like that. If you can do it, like low cost. I've heard people you doing toilet paper rolls. I've did that, but I did not like. They didn't seem to hold up as well.
I've heard of people using egg cartons.
Yep.
Not the styrofoam ones, but the paper ones.
And you would have to pot those up fairly quickly because you look at how much soil's there.
Yep.
So if you're starting these pots in March, the end of March, beginning of April, that's 6 weeks for a tomato. That's 6 to 8 weeks that it's got to survive in that dirt. And if that's not enough, you're going to need to bump them up into a bigger pot at some point in that 6 weeks.
That's one of those where you can just
put
drop
the
the whole
in.
thing
Yep,
in there.
You can drop it all in there.
It'll just decompose.
Yep. Which I like. And that's how you can do some of those plants that don't like to be transplanted, like cucumbers or squash. If you start them in something like that, it is much easier to transplant them.
Because you're not disturbing those
You're
roots.
not disturbing the roots, but I still would not do corn.
Yep.
There are some things you just start in the dirt, like peas. Peas don't transplant very well.
Okay.
Because as they grow, they get tangled. And to bring them apart and separate them, you rip the plant and you basically kill your plant. And then you need your starting mix. I use a sterile seed starting mix because I use an organic one, and those have been sterilized so that I don't know if they bake them or how they sterile.
I have no idea.
But they've killed that kills the fungus and stuff in it because of the dampness that you have growing and you're indoors. You have less chance of a fungus growing on them and killing your seedlings. Jill Winger from the Prairie Homestead website. She uses regular potting soil, and she had an issue last year with her potting soil not having enough nitrogen, and she lost 150 tomato plants and had to start over. Yeah. So I use that. And then about 2 weeks into it, I will start fertilizing with a fish fertilizer. And
what? A fish?
Fish.
Okay.
It smells a little bit, guys. It smells like fish and stuff, but it's a really good, a lot of nutrients in it. And so those seedlings, after they get up a little bit, there's not that much dirt there when you're starting them. So they need to be fertilized and given food.
So you said at 2 weeks?
About 2 to 3 weeks, I will start fertilizing.
You start fertilizing.
Because,
okay.
The seed has the nutrients in that seed for that plant to pop out and start growing up to its first true leaves. I would start fertilizing after that. And then another thing is you need to have a fan. You need to have a fan of some sort. I like an oscillating fan, or if you're using a box fan, you need to rotate your plant because growing them inside. There's no stress on them. Stress makes all of us stronger, and so having a fan that blows on your plants, it puts stress on the stems and it makes the stems stronger. Where if you don't and you take and put it outside, they can't take the elements outside, and so then they will more likely die on you. So you need to have that fan, and then it also helps with a fungus. It helps dry out the surface of the soil, and so it'll help control some of the fungus. But then you've got to be careful that it doesn't dry it out too much. So that's where they're a baby, they're a toddler. You gotta watch them all the time.
Yep.
Oh, and then you need a way to water your fertilizer.
I was just gonna say watering.
I use a weed sprayer that has not had any chemicals in it, because when you're planting, it has that fine mist, so that you can mist your seeds down, but not blow them out of the sails. Mm-hmm. And so, but then once they get growing, then I have a watering can, just like a house plant watering. And then I water them from the bottom once they're up and growing. I love the weed sprayer for keeping the surface moist so that they will germinate.
So you're just spraying a little bit on instead of watering them.
Yeah.
You're misting them.
And then I like it because you pump it and you hold it, whereas I was using a spray bottle. And if you have a lot of trays, your hand can get tired.
I would imagine so. Yes.
So that's the thing. And so this is the way how am I going to do this? I'm just going to say it the way I do it. You got to have a place you can make a mess.
Okay.
So if you're not going to want this in your kitchen, don't start it in your kitchen. I do it in the basement where it doesn't matter that it's cement floors and it's easy to clean up. We have a craft table.
Spill water, most likely.
Yep.
You can have dirt, fertilizer, stinky fertilizer.
So have a place you can do that. And so you want to start out and get your seed starting mix moist. You want it moist. So the way I do, you pour water on it, and you just like how you test your garden to see if the soil's too wet. You take a handful of it and squeeze it, and if water runs out, it's too wet. You need to add more dirt in it and take some of that moisture out of the masses. But you want to squeeze it and you want it to hold together but you want it to break apart real easy because you
Okay.
want that soil moist for the seeds to be able to germinate. So then I take that soil and I filled my seed trays, whatever I'm using, and then you want to lightly tap it down. I poke it in with my fingers. You don't want to, pack it down, but you want to tamp it down so there's not a lot of air pockets inside it. And so then you plant your seed. And the way I plant my seed is I poke a hole in with my finger or a pencil, depending on the size of the seed. And then you put your seed on there, and then you sprinkle a little dirt, or you either push a little dirt over it or you sprinkle a little bit more dirt. And then one gal that I watch on YouTube, she has started using vermiculite on top of her soil to help with moisture retention. I'm glad I have somebody that sits and listens to me. It's the way. And then I usually put 2 to 3 seeds in each cell, depending on how old your seeds are. Not every seed may grow. And so I always put a couple in there just to, guarantee or have better odds of getting a seed to grow in each cell. And if you get a cell that a seed doesn't pop up, just, if it's been a week or two and nothing's grown there, and if it's really a big concern to you, just poke another seed in there. It will just be behind a little bit, but it'll catch up eventually. And so don't stress. If you have a cell that doesn't grow, don't stress about it. Label your stuff. So you can either buy pre-made labels. I usually plant by the row in a tray. And my favorite thing to use is an old mini blind that the string is broke on. And then I take them, cut them into the length that I want, and then slice them in half so they're small. And I can stick them down in each cell and then put my dome over it for when I want to see. So my humidity dome over them. And so I know what each row, because even though I may have a piece of paper that, and I label my trays, this is tray number 1, I don't always want to sit and pull out that piece of paper going, what is that? And
Okay, so you basically mark your rows just like you do in your garden.
And Sharpie marker's okay, but if you can find a Sharpie laundry marker, they're really good.
A laundry marker.
Yep.
Okay.
They're called a laundry marker. And then they make garden markers that are supposed to be just as good, but they take a little more effort to wear out, even outside.
Okay.
I mean, I have markers that I use every year, or, seed row markers and stuff that the marking will stay on it for a couple of years.
Okay.
And so that's what I use. And then after you plant them, cover them, put your vermiculite on top, then you mist them. And then I put them in my tray, and then I put a dome on them to help hold the humidity in, to help with, and then I go put them on my radiator, put them on your seed mat so that they're warm, and wait. But then you need to check and set your timer up. I put my lights and my fan on a timer, so that's kind of one part of the automated of my day, so I don't have to do that part. But I do have to go check on the water. I check each day. I check my plants. Is anything growing? Does it need to be moved off the seed mat? Does it need a little bit more water because it's been, it's dried out? It's been a week or so. So it's just like a kid. You got to check on them all the time.
Okay, so you said you have a fan running.
Yes.
But you have a dome on top of your.
Okay.
Explain the dome and how we work the dome.
I put a dome on so I plant them, put them in my seed trays, put the dome on them, and then I put them on my radiators. I don't have the fan on yet.
Okay.
And so then I take mine when they sprout. I take them because my radiators is in my dining room, and so that's where I put them. Then once they sprout, I move them back to the basement, put them on my plastic shelving, and then I turn my fan on.
Okay, so the dome is now gone.
The dome is now gone.
So the dome is only on there to help keep the moisture in so they can sprout.
And
Gotcha.
heat and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
I need somebody to help me ask questions so that people understand me. And keep them moist. Don't saturate them. You don't want to saturate them because if you keep them too wet, they won't get oxygen in their roots. And so then they will suffocate, basically, just like we do with no oxygen. I said watering from the bottom once they're up and growing.
So how do you do that?
I use just a watering can. Anybody can do
so
this.
So when you say you water from the bottom, do you have a tray underneath there? And then you fill that tray so that they can just take what they need? So you're not watering from the top?
No, not after they're up growing. I water them from the bottom. And I don't fill the tray. Like, this is one of those things. It's second. I don't even think about it anymore. I never fill it all the way up because they won't use it. I just put a little bit so that the bottom of the seed cells that are sitting in the tray can touch it. And then,
So it's better to keep it under and maybe water more often
yes.
than it is to just fill it up and I don't have to worry about it for 2 weeks.
No, yeah, you'll kill them.
Yep. Okay.
And stuff, because that's when you're going to have those saturated plants and they're going to die.
Gotcha.
So now that you have your plants and they're growing, so it's been 2 weeks, they're upgrowing, they've got their first set of leaves. I actually wait probably until they're a little taller. So now you've got 3 plants in this little
I was gonna ask you.
half-inch cell.
Yep.
And so I will go in and thin, and I don't pull. I have a little plant nipper. You could use a craft scissors or whatever. I go in and cut the ones that I don't want. I look and see which one is stronger, which one looks like a better plant, and I cut the ones that aren't as strong looking.
Okay, so why wouldn't I want to try to go in and break that all up and go, well, I've got 3 plants. Now I'll take 2 out of there and put them in new cells. Why wouldn't I want to do that?
You can do that. It's a little more time consuming, but not all plants like their roots disturbed.
Okay.
And so if you do that, you run the risk of killing all
all
three
three. Okay.
instead of just 2.
Okay.
And I know it's hard for us gardeners to kill plants on purpose.
That's what my thing is. I was like, but there's 3 babies.
Yep. And so there's not enough space or nutrients there to support 3 plants. And so you're better off getting rid of 2 of them so that you have 1 strong, healthy plant to put outside.
Yep.
And so
that makes sense, but it's hard
to us plant mamas or daddies to do that, but that's what we have to do. And then sometimes there's like, what were the plants last year that I grew? There were some flowers. The seeds are so tiny that you can't control how many you put in there. And,
yep.
And I had 20 plants in 1 cell. And so I just started on the outside of it with my little...
Giving it a haircut.
Giving it a haircut around it, saying until I got it down to just 2 or 3. And so then you got to, once you thin them, so then you're in the process for 4 to 6 weeks, 8 weeks. It's probably going to be 10 weeks with my onions and parsley. And so you're just taking care of them. But then when it comes time, it's like, oh, yay, it's time to go outside. It's getting warm enough. Mm-hmm. And so you need to do what they call hardening off. You need to adjust your babies to being outside in the elements. Just like when we have our kids and they're teenagers and they're going to go off, you've got to prep them to be pushed out of the nest.
Uh-huh.
And so you need to take them outside. Granted, you've been using the fan to harden their stems and stuff. And so you need to take them outside and get them used to being out in the real world of the real wind and the real sun and stuff. But you don't want to push them out there and leave them out there for 2 weeks and they go, fly. No, so you need to, so you start out, you leave them out there for, I do start out and leave them out for like all day. So I'll take them out in the morning once it warms up, and then I will bring them or cover them in the evening. I have little mini greenhouses that I set out on the northeast side of my garage where it will get morning sun, but it's in the shade in the afternoon. So I go out and I put them all out. Once it's warm enough, I put them out in my mini greenhouse and I'll go out and zip it up. And so they stay open all day. So they're getting the wind and everything. They're kind of protected, but then they're getting some of it. And then once it's warm enough, I leave it open all the time. And then that's all I do. Some people insist that you need to put it out, so they're getting the full force. I'm like going, well, I don't have the space. And when you have, I will probably end up with like 10 trays. To pull 10 trays out and sit them on the ground or somewhere all day, and then to put those 10 trays back at night, I don't have time for that. So this is my solution. They're getting some elements, and there's some things you can do when you put them out in the garden. You can protect them with, milk cans, milk jars.
I was going to say, my mom used to use the metal
coffee cans. Yep.
Coffee cans.
So
type of thing.
buckets with the bottoms. I've done that. Cut the bottoms out of them and stuff like that. So there's ways to do that. And so then that's it. And once they've been outside for a week or so, adjusting to the true elements and the weather in your area, then they're ready to go in the ground. And so that's it. That's how I start my seedlings. And I did want to go back and there's, so what if you had seeds that did, if you have a whole batch of seeds that don't grow, like you have a row that didn't come up, why did that not grow? And so number one is probably how old are your seeds? I mean, looking at me, I need to watch that. Because I grew 1 year, just 2 years ago, because I took a few years off from starting my own seeds, and so I had old seeds, and I thought, well, I'm going to put them in and see if they grew. I had like 3 tomato varieties that did not grow, and so how old are your seeds? That's the number one Number one reason. And you can do a germination test, which is, just like we did in or in grade school. Take a paper towel, wet it,
Yep.
and put, like 10 is a good number because then it's easy math. Put 10 seeds out and see how many grows. And that will tell you what your rate of germination is. And so if it's not 100%, but it's 50%, you need to double up on your seeds. I would put 4 seeds in that cell instead of just 2 or 3.
Okay.
So you have better odds of, is it warm enough? Is your soil warm enough? Granted, in the house, that you're trying to control that. But if you're even outside in the garden, did you plant something that didn't grow? Was it warm enough? Was your soil warm enough? If the soil's not warm enough, your seed's not going to grow. Did your soil dry out in the house? I mean, that's the thing out in the garden too. Carrot seeds are a tough one. If the carrot seed dries out, you lost it. If you plant it, water it, and you don't get carrots growing in a week, it dried out too much and you've lost it and you need to replant. And then it's just like some seeds just take longer to germinate. Another case inside, did you have dampening off? When you've kept your seed too wet and then you end up with a fungus growing on top of it, you will watch it and the stem of your plant will just start shrinking and then it'll shrivel up and just fall over. The odds are you're keeping it too moist, and so you need to be back on it. You're taking too good of a care on your plant.
Okay.
It's like you're overfeeding it or overwatering it, and you can replant it and just start over. And so that's what it is. But then we didn't cover legginess when we were talking about.
Yes, we talked
about legginess, and that is when your plant is looking for, it's not getting enough light, and it's looking and reaching for the light. So if you are using a windowsill, one of the easiest ways to help that is rotate your plant. Every other day or so, turn your plant tray so that they have to move back and forth. And so that's another bit of exercising, helping grow stronger stems. But then too, they don't reach so hard, because if they get too leggy, they're not going to grow. They're not going to survive. And you basically need to start over. Oh, I know what else. There's another way. I've only done it once, and I'm playing with doing it again, is winter sowing. I don't know if
I have read a little bit about winter sowing.
Winter sowing is where you take a milk carton or a milk jug or a water jug, they make them big enough, and you cut them you cut them open, but leave a hinge, and you poke drain holes in it, and then you put potting soil, not seed starting soil, because seed starting dries out too much. So you put soil in there, just same way. Put your moist soil in there, put your seeds on them, cover them, and then you close it up and you tape it shut, usually with like a duct tape, some strong tape, because they're going to have to hold up to the elements outside. And then you take them and you sit them outside, preferably a south side of your house. And that's all you do.
And what's the time frame for, let's say, for our zone, which is 4B?
B.
So when would I do this in January? I'm doing this in the fall.
You could. It depends on if you have more time now. You could do it. You could do it now and set them outside. And the philosophy is that they're like a plant outside. They will wake up when they're ready to, and then you want to make sure that it's a plant that can handle cold temperatures. So like a tomato and pepper, that, it's going to get below freezing. They won't handle that. They'll die. But, if it's pre-annual or if it's an annual.
Something like kale,
that
type of
snapdragons, a cool season crop that can handle cold temperatures are great candidates for that. That's if you don't have the time to sit in putts with, making sure they have water, lights turning off, fan, to sit them outside. And the only thing is, if you live in a zone that doesn't get enough rain, you may have to come along and water them. Check on them every few weeks. Here, I don't think we'd have an issue because we get enough snow, because you leave the cap off,
I was just going to say what.
So that they will vent. They won't get too hot.
Okay.
But then if you do have snow, like we have snow out there today, it will get a little snow in there, and that'll be their little bit of moisture. But they won't get oversaturated as long as you don't put them under an eave that, will drown them. That's my issue, putting them someplace where they won't drown, because all my south-facing walls of the house have an eave. So they might drown if I put them right up against the... But or right now, I'd have to dig out the snow to be able to set them out there.
True.
Because there's drifts on the south side of my house, like 2 feet deep.
Yep.
That's another way to do it. Any questions? Anything you can think of I forgot?
Can we go back for a second about your, if your seed doesn't come up in your cells. So does planting depth have on that?
Yes. your seed packet, wealth of information. It will usually tell you how deep to plant them. Otherwise, a general rule is double the size of the seed. So like a cucumber seed is bigger than like a tomato seed. So a tomato seed, you're barely pushing in, and a cucumber seed, you're going to push in a little harder. Or then you have some flower seeds that are hardly there, and you just sprinkle them on the top because they need light to sow. And you don't even need to, you just need to push them into the soil. You don't even need to cover them.
Okay.
The one I'm thinking of is alyssums. I grow lots of alyssums, and you just sprinkle them on the top of the soil, tap them down very lightly so they're making contact, and that's all you do to them. And so that's a general. So double the width of the seed. So that's how you know, if the package doesn't say for some reason, that's, you don't want to plant them too deep because then they may not have enough energy to push up through the soil to the surface.
Okay. I thought seed depth made a difference.
Yep.
So
that's like outside. So like a sunflower seed, you're going to plant deeper than you would a radish seed. Anything else you can think of? I may have not
no, I
covered.
don't think so. I think you've covered it
covered a lot.
pretty good.
And this is an opinion. Everybody has one.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is what works for you and that you've learned over the course of time. And some things that work for you may not work for somebody else.
Yeah, if you're in a different zone than me, you're going to have to learn what your zone is and how to grow in your zone. I've always said if I moved, I'd have to relearn how to garden. If I moved out of Minnesota zone 4, I'd have to relearn everything.
Yeah, well, look, the person that commented on our post today about our ghee, and she asked about pressure canners, and she said she was in Phoenix, Arizona, and she only has a spring and a fall garden.
Yeah, because actually that's my brother's girlfriend.
Yeah, and I'm just like, well,
they fry.
Yeah,
I've talked to Ernie. In the summertime, they like fry everything. Yep. So she will plant in the fall, and she gardens. She gardens opposites than we do. So she's gardening right now.
Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird to
Texas
see somebody
is kind of same thing.
What do you mean you don't have a summer garden? You know, I mean, because that's our mentality. You know, here we don't have a winter garden.
Yeah. As we're going in and starting to plant, they're finishing up. So
it's very interesting.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun to talk to people who are, in other parts of our country anyway.
Because my brother, he lives in Texas, and he's like going in summertime. Yeah, I don't hardly go outside in the sun. I have no grass to mow. It's all burnt up. And he goes, I'm like, he goes, what's the difference? Okay, you stay in the house all winter, and I stay in the house all summer. And I'm like, but that just sounds wrong.
Exactly.
Like summertime, you're supposed to be outside enjoying the sun. And so it's like,
Yeah. So, okay. I think we've covered everything.
I think so too.
Please, if you enjoy our little discussion here, our little ramblings and learning something, please make sure you give us a like, a thumbs up, or a review would be wonderful. Please make sure you share us if you enjoy us. We're always looking to have more listeners. And make sure you check us out at twogalshomesteading.com, Two Gals Homesteading on Facebook. Once again, thank you for tuning in. We'd like to give a special thank you to picosupply.com for sponsoring our podcast. So until next time.
Put some kefir on it.
Thank you for listening to the Homestead Podcast's latest episode. Your hosts, Carol Radke and Jamie Kappas, are Two Gals Homesteading. To learn more, go to twogalshomesteading.com or the Two Gals Homesteading Facebook page at facebook.com/twogalshomesteading. Editing, audio production, and marketing of the Homestead Podcast is the responsibility of Media Trends. The Homestead Podcast is an audio product of Media Trends, a limited liability company based in Minnesota, USA.